but that had nothing to do with the trajectory. That the trajectory they were already on pre that. People like to blame, you know, that, but totally not true. I mean, the only thing I could say is that, you know, they could have come in and fixed it. But
Yeah.
the trajectory the brands were on was already established due to decisions that were made several years before the acquisition.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, it was
I
my
like the
understanding
Series
that
5.
Samsung bought the company on for mostly for their car speaker division because
The
JBL
automotive,
really has a lot of
the
that
That's what
automotive
I
market.
thing,
understand also.
yeah, not just JBL, but Harman overall has a large footprint in OEM automotive, and Samsung has interest in sort of autonomous cars and integrating technology into cars, and Harman already had those inroads because of the infotainment systems and branding they had with most of the major manufacturers. And I think again, my take is that pro and consumer even, which isn't nothing to sniff at, all were just sort of came along for the ride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
The
Well, it
one I
seems like they're still putting out new product.
Yep.
They seem to have changed their distribution a little bit. Everything seems to be going pretty smooth for them at this point in time. And speaking of very smooth, welcome everybody to Thinking Out Loud with Friends. Hey, I'm Jan Landy. We got the panel. Everybody will introduce themselves. We were just schmoozing before. I love that word. We were just schmoozing before you
It's a
got
great
here.
word, yeah.
It's a great word. That or BSing, but I like schmoozing better. It's kind of like old time New York, schmoozing. Anyway, today we have a very special guest, Tom Durr. He's been around for longer than me in the industry, and that is like, I remember this joke about these two women. The kids were talking about these two women of how old they were, and one I forgot the joke, but so anyway, it was like she's older than the hills, and that's me. That's all of us in this room. We're older than the hills. We need some young blood, baby, young
We
blood.
are,
Thanks,
yes,
Chris, for
we
coming
are.
in. I appreciate that. But anyway, Tom's been around a long time. Soundcraft, Harman. And now, of course, with Allen and Heath. And since he's got to Allen and Heath, man, has that line exploded. And I mean, everybody's talking Allen and Heath right now with the Avantis, with the SQ, with the QU. And anyway, so any questions you have, Tom is here to answer it. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, see, Chris, you didn't know that I knew how to speak French. There you go. So without any further ado, there we go. Hey, Tom, how's it
Hey,
going, man?
good,
Welcome,
thanks.
Tom.
Magnifique,
Yeah,
magnifique.
yeah. Some we've all been talking to already, but welcome all the people out there in video land. Yeah, don't I'm not sure where to take this. I can ramble on, Jan. You can sort of cue me with questions. I can tell you a bit about Allen and Heath and its history for those who might not be up on it. I can do a lot of things, but rambling is one of my specialties. So,
Well, if I could,
try to
if I could
ramble without
direct
getting
you, if
myself
I could
fired.
direct you just a little bit, what I'd say
Okay.
is, did you wear that bullseye shirt just because you're in the bullseye today, or was that just a
Yeah, I'm a
coincidence?
fan of the British mod movement, and so sort of UK centric shirt, if nothing else.
Very cool. So tell people about, I gave you a brief introduction, but I mean, you have such an illustrious career. Why don't you tell everybody who doesn't know you or just they think of you from just Allen and Heath, where you've been, and how you got here?
Yeah. Gee, well, that'll take 4 hours, but that's fine. No, the short story has always had an interest in music and performance and this, show business to an extent. And, when I was in high school just out of Nashville, I sort of, I think we had some recruiters from Middle Tennessee University come by, and they had a recording program there that was one of the earlier ones in the country, preceding, this sort of glut of them you have now. And that sort of caught my eye. I thought, oh, that's kind of up my alley. So I ended up going to college at University of Memphis, or Memphis State as they called it back in the day, and got a commercial music degree with emphasis in recording engineering, and went to Nashville and started working initially as an intern, and then as a staff guy in Nashville. Um, and did that long enough to sort of realize that I probably don't want to do this all my life. I certainly don't want to do it in the structure that's there in Nashville, which at the time and maybe still is to an extent is pretty structured. There's a way country records are made, were made at least in the day. And I thought, I'm not a big country fan to begin with, and I didn't love um, the act of engineering enough to just do it as a job. By the fourth or fifth year, I was thinking, no, this isn't what I want to do with my life. I'm not sure what it is. And I was working as a studio manager at the time of a small place on Music Row, a small 24 track studio with a Harrison console. And I thought, what am I going to do? I don't know. And so my wife moved to Chicago to go to graduate school at the Art Institute. She ended up not doing, but it got me to Chicago. And I was looking for work, and there wasn't much of a music scene up there other than blues, which I'm not a big blues guy, and the ad scene. And so I had a um, application at one of the big studios there, Streeterville, and it kept getting put off. I thought, wow, I'm running out of money here. I got to do something. And so I ended up, I'll shorten the story. This isn't going to go that long. Ended up working, saw an ad in the back of the Chicago Free Weekly called The Reader, looking for a sales assistant at a mixing console manufacturer. Mixing console manufacturer is one called Neotech. That was a recording console manufacturer predominantly. And so I sent my resume in there. A young guy who was working there saw that I'd worked on just as a independent second engineer on an REM record, and he's an REM fan. So he brought me in and hired me, and that really started the path that I'm on now. So Neotech ended up being much like a graduate school, really. I mean, I didn't have much business chops, and the guy who ran Neotech was very bright. He was had a PhD. I think he didn't get his walk the line, but he did all this qualifications for a PhD in like chemical engineering or something weird like that. But he also designed consoles and electronics, and he was this entrepreneurial guy who could do CAD design. He could do woodworking. He did all the photo shoots. He maintained the very basic networking and fax stuff. And so that got me started in the console sales game, and I ended up being the sales director for them, which again, very small company, so it didn't mean a lot, but I was an international sales director. So that got me started, and yeah, and here I am. The when I was Neotech ended up falling on hard times when the Mackeys and ADATs came out, so that that the changing of the guard and technology for recording sort of did in a lot of sort of these mid-level manufacturers, and so Neotech got bought by a company called Martin Sound out of California. Martin Sound's most notable for doing the uh, flying fader systems for Neve consoles. And so I worked for Martin Sound for several years, and then um, fell into the Soundcraft thing. Again, I was thinking Martin Sound, probably not where I need to be. And Harman was moving all their European brands to Nashville, and I was living in Chicago at the time. But I interviewed, and the sales director from the UK flew out and met me, maybe in Chicago. And there's another guy named Tim Harrison who's running the US operation who was leaving. He was just an interim guy. He's going back to the UK. He ended up working for Solid State Logic. They hired me, and really the rest is history. Had a long run at Harman and Soundcraft as being pretty much the key employee, certainly during the latter half of my career there, and then left about 2.5 years ago for Allen and Heath. And like Jan said, Allen and Heath has been on a tear. They're already, they know that, and they're on much on. They're already, just to be clear, they're already on a tear before I got there. I'm very lucky, late career, to get in a great position with a great company. That's, in many ways similar to what Soundcraft was. UK owned, obviously offshore manufactured these days, but large R&D team, very British identity, which, had gone the way of the buffalo at Soundcraft as Harman had shut down Soundcraft, Studer, Crown, pretty much all the individual brands at that point, which, sort of led to my decision to leave.
Just a question about yourself. Did you have a musical background? Did you play any instruments?
Nothing useful. I mean, again, that was probably one of the mistakes in my life is that I didn't learn anything really good. I played a bass clarinet, in junior high and probably wasn't that great at it. And I never did learn a good rock and roll instrument. It would have been much, it would have been handier to have, particularly at times in the recording thing. I mean, again, a lot of what I was doing, which I liked, was rock and roll, and you didn't really need that. But in the more sort of structured, country sessions, yeah, that would have been good to have if I'd wanted to go that way. But no, don't have any real musical chops, for better or for
Very
worse.
cool. Now, just a coincidence, when you were at when you were at Soundcraft, was Matt Robinson there at that time?
At the time, that would have been in the late 90s. Spirit and Soundcraft. The Spirit was had been sort of branded as the lower end of Soundcraft. So it was viewed as sort of like the MI version of Soundcraft and maybe low end install. And so they had rightly or wrongly thought, well, we'll create a brand called Spirit, and that will be that. That will not detract from the Soundcraft brand. And what ended up happening is I think it ended up confusing the market, and it probably did detract to it to a certain extent. So short answer is no. Matt was part of Spirit USA, which is based. I think Gary Lynn was running it and was out of the Sacramento area. So a separate distribution for many years, and then probably around late 90s, 2000, they brought it into the basically Soundcraft distribution, Harman, and then more or less got rid of Spirit. Eventually, the few remaining Spirit items were brought over, like let's call it the Spirit, the Spirit 8 or Live 8 was rebranded Soundcraft, and some other things were. So no, separate.
The reason
Separate.
I ask is because when I first started SoundBroker, nobody, not one manufacturer wanted me to sell their equipment because they say, hey, you're just selling used gear, except for Matt Robinson. He gave me the Spirit line, and I didn't realize what you just said right now about it. So all I did was sell it, sell. And I sold so
Right.
many of them that everybody else started seeing what I was doing. So they came to me and said, you want to handle our line too?
Yeah. I mean, there's sort of the precursor, I believe, or certainly about the same time as Mackie. They're both sort of playing in that same sandbox. Yeah, Matt was a wonderful guy. Ended up, as I think went to Electrosonics, and then unfortunately, I think died of a heart
Yes.
attack or something.
Yeah.
Way too early.
Anyway, so before we went on air, Bruce was asking you a question about the Allen and Heath consoles, and I so rudely interrupted him by saying, "Hey, you got to wait till we go on the air before you start asking questions." So, Bruce, now you're on the spot. Let me unmute you, Bruce.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's a little bit noisy in the background here. We're on the theater floor for the auction that starts tomorrow, and we're doing previews today and tomorrow till 4 o'clock. So people can walk around and look at cars that are going to sell for like 4 million and up. Like some of them I've walked around, some of them are 20 million asking starting prices. This is unbelievable. Anyway, so I was 71 on Sunday, so happy birthday to me. And I've had a
Congratulations, Bruce. I
Thank
just
you.
want everybody to know this is what a retired sound man looks like.
There you go.
A guy that
Semi-retired.
says he's retired, but he's working more
He's
now than he
still
did when he
working.
wasn't retired.
Sometimes I kind of wonder. But in the old days, my first console when I was doing club rock and roll with a PA back then was a Kelsey Pro Club Tour 24. And then which you probably remember, that was an English console. And I have a picture of it actually. You don't find them anymore anywhere. And I spent a little time on well, not a Soundcraft, it was a Soundmaster,
Oh yeah, Studio
and
Master.
then Studio Master. And then my first Yamaha experience was the PM 1000. I had a 32 channel 1000, with the rosewood sides, and that I rode it all over the place. And that started my Yamaha consoles. And I've been, other than guest engineering in theaters where they had Avids and a number of other things, I love the VI6. That was at a theater in LA, and I spent much time there, and that was a great console. But I've pretty much, I've been a Yamaha guy. I've been up through the years, and then lately, because they've been around for so long, it's been the QL1, the QL5, and the CL5, and now the DM7, which I I absolutely love. It took me a little while to get used to, but they're easy to operate. They make sense, which some consoles just don't. Um, and I've always had a soft spot for the Allen and Heath analog stuff, and had three of the 4000s back in my old AVHQ days. Remember AVHQ?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was the head sound guy for 17 years there, and we had a number of Yamaha consoles and some Crest consoles and three 4000s, Allen and Heath 4000s. And I loved them. I rotated them around. They sounded great. They were that British sort of EQ sound, and it was just nice and warm, and I loved it. And I was hoping that you could make the case for Allen and Heath because like I said before, Yamaha, which I think wasn't a good decision, is they discontinued the QL1 and the QL5 and the CL5 maybe a couple of years too soon, because until they come out with a DM7 or something that's a little smaller and a little cheaper to fit that hole, I think people are going to be in a spot. So I
Yeah.
I I need something to tell somebody if they don't want a DM7, because that's what I'm
Right.
living on now, where to go. And I was so glad that you were going to be here tonight so that I could talk to you about this.
Yeah, as I said off air, I may not convince you. Again, sound guys tend to, be comfortable on a particular workflow, and while digital consoles all change a bit, once you're, sort of committed and like the way someone does it, like Yamaha.
I
Yeah,
am a I am a bit, but I need to be able to convince somebody that
yeah.
doesn't want to spend,
So, yeah.
that much money on something
So,
that will be adequate, and you're going
yeah.
to fit the bill, I
Yeah,
think.
and again, as we talked a little bit off air, Avantis is probably the call there. It fits the right, it fits in between, it fits below DM7. I think it'll fit a little above what they're coming in, what I think they're coming out with, which they had a leak on that they I don't think they cared for.
Are they
Um,
doing a DM5?
they are, yeah, exactly.
I thought so.
Yeah, they one of their idiot someone leaked it that they shouldn't have, but so we know, we knew it was coming, and now everyone, for the most part, if you dig around, you can find out about it. But the Avantis fits in a nice niche there, and the success of the Avantis, both in corporate, mid-level touring, like I think Mr. Porter there in Spectrum has a chunk of them that he uses for opening acts. And it just gives you a lot for not much money. You sit there and you think, we just did, this year has been a very active year for us. And in fact, every year is a pretty active year for us. And that's one of the reasons you're seeing Allen Heath um, be the force that it is that it has a very large R&D department, largest console R&D
Wow.
department I've ever seen. By multiples. So there is a lot of stuff in the pipeline, and this year, we've seen revised the Q5, Q6, Q7 replace the older Q16 2432s. We just came out with SQ Plus, which it's kind of an incremental but significant update on the existing SQ. And we've introduced what we call Avantis Ultra uh, and a couple of variants thereof that increases the channel count. So some people would hit a wall with Avantis where it topped out at 64 channels, but now it goes up to 96. So it's got a lot of power. It's got around 44, 42 buses, mono or stereo. So it's got a
That's
lot
what I was
of,
going to ask you. What's the
yeah.
output
So,
capabilities? Because, I do corporate
yeah,
and maybe 24 inputs or 32 inputs, but I'm feeding 80 different things.
yeah. And it's got multiple, auto mixers. It's got sort of a primary source expander built into every channel.
Oh, nice.
It's got a lot of horsepower, and it doesn't cost that much money. It's going to depend on
How
if you're
many
doing
mix buses and matrices does it have?
44, I believe.
Wow,
42, 40.
that's great.
Yeah, and they can be mono or stereo. So, and again, we're talking again off air a little bit about, people specking consoles that really it should have been something different. This thing will cover a lot of a lot
Yes,
of
that's what
stuff
I'm looking for.
up until you start getting into something pretty significant.
Right,
So
right.
it punches well above its weight, and it's one reason it's so successful. I mean, it does quite well in House of Worship, and again, all these sort of touring and live production verticals, it does quite well in. And it's
And
the
the
same.
one
Yeah, go
and the
ahead.
one thing that really doesn't count is it's pretty sexy looking too when you
And
look
it's
at it.
sexy looking. It's
It
got
it
a
looks
modern,
great.
large screen. It reacts well in terms of speed, a lot of visibility. Somewhat similar to VI in that it has a large vertical channel strips on each screen. So we got 12 channel strips on each screen with touch sensitive blocks.
I like that.
Um, it's flexible. It's got two expansion ports, even the small one, that are 128 by 128 ports. So you can put a 128 by 128 Dante card, Wave server card, MADI, multiple format MADI card. So it's super flexible, and it has already a built-in port for a stage box. So, and it's so yeah, that going back to your sort of, well, what should I tell people? Tell them Avantis. That's a good one. And again, it makes sense, I think, both functionally and in terms of the price you pay.
What's roughly the retail price range? Like
I knew you were
20
going to
to
ask that.
30 or 15 to
Stuff
25
I
or
should know. It's roughly for the
well, I don't
smaller
want to
ones,
give
so it
away
goes up
any.
to 10 to mid-teens probably. And
Well,
then,
that's not bad at all.
if you throw a stage box on it, get in probably the low 20s for the bigger one.
And there's analogs on the back.
Let me interject right here a little bit of something which I don't think I said in the beginning. Everything you hear today is an opinion, so do your own research. There you
Yeah,
go.
exactly. Particularly when it comes out of my mouth.
And there's analog ins and outs on the back also, right?
There are, yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's great.
Yep. The smaller one doesn't have as many because there's not enough space, but it
Right,
does have some
right.
local IO as well. So anyway, short answer, Avantis.
Let me
Yeah,
So
no, that's
as
great.
far as the the Allen and Heath line, what is the most popular console that you have?
Yeah,
What
what
is
is
the
the most
number one
popular? Yeah.
selling?
Um,
That's 5,000, 1,500.
well, yeah, in terms of touring, yeah, touring and probably install. In terms of, without going into stuff I probably shouldn't talk that much about, in terms of sales volumes, it's going to be one of the probably going to be neck and neck with SQ and Q. I mean, we sell a ton of those things.
We have someone in the room right now that's very interested in an SQ5. Chris, do you want to have any questions that you'd like to ask right now?
No, I
Other
was
than
just
where can I get a discount?
Yeah, which I still
uh,
owe him actually. I had a family death that right when he was asking about that post NAM, so he sort of got dropped on the special deal,
that,
Jan deal on that one. But I do
that's all
remember
right.
him
No,
asking.
I just the SQ the 5 Plus looks quite interesting. I use the CQ20B just for like home
Yeah,
stuff, and God, it just sounds great,
sounds great. No, it's crazy.
and
Crazy
the
the performance you
workflow
get.
is just logical. Like everything is where you would expect it to be. So.
Yeah, no, those are good.
Have you made any new mods to the to your stage boxes, or are those still
Not
pretty much?
currently. Uh, Again, without giving away too much, there's work being done there. Um, so I think there will be additional options in what you see now. When I can't say, but yeah, there is some work happening. Again, there's a lot of, as I intimated earlier, there's a lot of activity there just in general. And this next couple of years, there's a lot of stuff happening.
I would assume that you've got such a big R&D research department that they are constantly coming up with ideas, and they're probably way ahead of their time at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, with any company, they're coming up with ideas, but equally product management and the sales arm is giving feedback, and there's a lot of direction. I should also say that once upon a time, Allen Heath was part of Harman when I first joined them. Harman owned both Soundcraft and Allen and Heath, and then there was a management buyout, and Glenn Rogers, who was a R&D director, I think at the time, ended up becoming the MD for Allen and Heath. And when Glenn left, we had another guy who was from the R&D background. He's actually a DSP engineer, Rob Clark. So the upper management of Allen Heath is R&D and audio centric, and they pay attention to audio stuff. They're curious. There's a drive to succeed, and there's a drive to improve. And I was thinking, we're at Infocom a couple months ago in Vegas, and we had a customer integrator out of Tennessee come up, and he'd been complaining about he can hear the difference between he was hearing a difference between how panned mono channels sounded with a source versus what a stereo channel with the balance control and center sounded, I believe. So maybe butchering that a bit, but then he had an audience with the president of Allen Heath and managing director of R&D, and they're sitting there with headphones saying, "Yeah, I hear that." And so he went back and we tried to replicate it, which we couldn't. But just to say, it's not being run by accounting. It's not being run by people who don't know the business. So it's that's part of the magic as well, and it shows, I think.
Mm-hmm. Michael Frawley has a question for you. Or maybe not.
Not there he is.
Yeah, my phone was fighting me to unmute. So we recently got to talk to the Nexus Axios guys, and one of the things that came out in that was the sheer input level on their stage boxes is, what was it, 164 or 167 dB?
Yeah, they've got super high headroom, which is they've had for years, and allows them to do sort of a split without analog gain tracking. I believe it's done digitally, if I'm not mistaken.
So I was wondering if you guys are working on beefing up that on your guys' stuff as well.
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not up to date really on the technical background of what they're doing there. When I was at Soundcraft, we had sort of scratched our heads about it, thinking that was a pretty cool way to do it. But it also at the time, I don't think their stage box wasn't inexpensive at the time. They may have come down in price now. But it was an interesting way to address having multiple feeds off a single I/O location.
Well, not just that, but just having that dynamic range and be able to,
not the gain at any.
Source. Yeah. Use a source at that level. I mean, that's going to help any engineer, who's trying to do some nice work.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the payoff, can we not get that out of our current offerings from us and our competitors? Don't know. It's certainly an impressive feat. Is it, in a A/B or subjective sonic comparison, does it matter? There's some stuff, again, that I don't know enough about it to really comment much, other than I'm vaguely familiar with it. And again, while I was at Harman, we had sort of looked at what they were doing with some interest.
But isn't D-Live has a very similar architecture. In other words, if you've got a stage box with a D-Live rack, you can split stuff up and send it over
You
to the
can
monitor
split. Yeah,
guys and send it to.
yeah, we like using tie lines. That's a very sort of Allen Heath centric way of working where you land stuff at one desk and then use tie lines to go out, however you want. I mean, we often will use our some of our proprietary network protocols, but you can do it with Dante as well. But that allows, all that in terms of just we're now, I think Michael was more sort of on the Sonic thing, but in terms of distribution, yes, super flexible. And that's been, I think, one of the things that people have loved about the brand is that you can do that, all the way down to SQ. It has tie lines. It can be, just you can just sort of land stuff and then just route away. So
Yeah, I think David Dansky uses a lot of Allen. David is now a touring engineer with a band called Hotel California, which is the
oh yeah.
official Eagles tribute band. And David, aren't you finding a lot of Allen Heath consoles out there? And what comments do you have on that?
I was just about to start saying things. Hey, Tom,
Hey
haven't
Jen,
seen you in quite a
how are
while.
you? Good seeing you.
So the way the band works is that we carry the entire stage with us, microphones, in-ears, a QL1 mixer, but I use front of house du jour. So I get whatever they have out front, and I've mixed on everything. I haven't seen this SQ yet. How long has that been out?
Long time. Yeah, quite some time.
Well, I get the D Live and I get the Avantis.
Right. Yeah.
And I always look forward to them because, I mean, in the past, when I was a young engineer, I've been doing this over 50 years. Allen and Heath didn't have removable modules and didn't have things. And to me, it was just like, okay, sure. It was kind of like Carvin, it was one of them. But since you guys have gone digital,
Yeah.
it's completely
Well,
different.
it's a new game, and again, a lot of people will associate the brand with stuff like you did. It's pretty nice stuff, but it wasn't modular for the most part, and it might have used vertical circuit boards with nutted pots, but it still wasn't. You can pull a module out.
Yeah,
They made a gamble slash investment in FPGA technologies when they did the D Live, and that really started this process of what you see the modern Allen Heath looking like, where you've got a very strong lineup from very, small to pretty large, all on an FPGA 96K engine. And that was the driver, was the success of that gamble, if you will, or commitment.
yeah. Well, it's pretty impressive now. And every time I hear I'm going to have an Allen Heath console, I really look forward to it. They sound great. I
Yeah.
love the software. Remind me, if this is your console, you have to hit apply, right? Once you
Yeah, a lot of the times. Yeah.
Okay. That burned me a couple of times in the
Yeah, I
beginning.
got
I
it.
know now.
Yeah, I got to pay attention myself sometimes because again, I'm not on them probably as often as you are. Sometimes I think, oh yeah, apply, yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
I mean, there's so many consoles I have to be conversing on that some things kind of
yep,
I slip on. So there's always a guy there to say, no, do it this way, or I ask them the question. But I love
yeah,
these consoles. So
yeah.
congratulations, man. It's great.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm very fortunate to land here at a very good time. I see it continuing probably long enough that I can, retire with, sort of on a, good run. And yeah, it's great. And again, like I said, there's a lot of passion there, and there's a very large team, particularly in R&D. The rest of the sort of sales and marketing team isn't that large, but they've made a firm commitment, and as y'all probably are aware, it is part of the Autotonics group that contains Digico, Solid State Logic, Calrec, Slate, on it, sound devices, on and on. So, and again, equally important at that level of management, which is a very group level management, fairly high. It is still a company, and the CEO there is still a console guy and is very, very console focused. And it gives us collectively all those brands, and certainly Allen Heath, because I think we're maybe the largest in terms of turnover. Um, you know, Great support and ease of accomplishing things, which is unique because again, you get into places, large companies, again, like the one I used to be with, but others, it's not, no one's you, and it gets that passion and the focus gets diluted because you're doing other things, but the Autotonics group in particular is very console focused and very dialed in on what's happening.
That's great.
Didn't they just buy Wizicom too?
Yeah, they did. Yep.
DPA
Wizicom was added as part of the DPA group, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Ken Porter, you have something. I'm sure you've got a few of these boards. Didn't you say something off air about a console case too, as well?
Yeah, console case for sale, stuff there. The question, here's a theory question for you, kind of in all lines that I've noticed over the years, is that when you have starter engineers, kids, whatever, that start up in bands or playing clubs, what console they start with tends to hit them, if it's the good and are used to it and get around it, as they start stepping up, the band grows, they step up through the line. And that's the thing you got to have is the line, because
Yep.
some people didn't really have a starter console, but in Allen Heath, I can't remember what it was, but in Digico, it was the SD9. More SD9s went out and bands was out there. And the next evolution that was go to the 10.
Yep.
And then go to the 12 if you needed that, and then step on up the line. And a lot of them, and once they're in a line, they tend to go, Yamaha the same way. They tend to go through that whole series up in the whole career geared at one. And most of the time, the front of house engineers are lazy and don't want to learn another protocol or run another method.
And they develop speed and comfort and all that. I mean, back when I was at Soundcraft, you'd see the same thing. I mean, all these guys now have aged out, but I had a lot of people go, "Oh, I started on a 200B or a series 1 whatever S."
I started on the 1S.
There you go. Case in point. But I would say a lot of our success, and if you look at a lot of our large touring acts, the engineers are very young. So we're young, we attract a young audience. Partly, I think that's a reflection of bang for buck value, but equally, I think it's reflective in some of the architecture we have in the console, which is very flexible. And so you can do a lot of stuff and be pretty creative. Again, that was, it took me some time, and I'm still learning, in terms of some of the stuff we can do on the consoles. But our success has not been with the established engineers. It's been with the up and coming engineers. And again, we do a lot of punky stuff. We do a lot of hard metalcore stuff. We've got some, large touring stuff as well, but it's predominantly younger engineers. And that's good because again, we've got more stuff coming. They like us, they relate to us. So that's sort of been one of the cool things about it. You also, while I'm rambling, one of the things that you see is a lot of these engineers are using the smaller D-Live surface, the CTI 1500. So if you go to Bonnaroo, you go to Coachella, you'll see big Avids and big Digicos, but you'll also see like a litter of CTI 1500s where band engineers have brought those in. And that's, again, our people, if you will.
Well, when I first started selling Allen and Heath, I noticed that my biggest market was the church market.
Yeah.
And the reason why people were buying it for the church market, because it was a simple operation to teach kids how to use a console. And I would think that a lot of the engineers that first started, because how do you get started? Well, you volunteer at the church, you volunteer at your place of worship. And that would seem to me that would be a great opportunity or it was a great opportunity for you. And as it expanded, the whole thing is, of course, is getting the console brand on riders to get more exposure to the main touring acts.
Yeah. And so, we saw, obviously, back when I was competing against them with Soundcraft, their GLs, MLs were, doing big business. And again, like you said, predominantly Allen Heath at that point was looked at as a church house of worship install console. And it was a change with the FPGA structure and a lot of hard work by a lot of people to establish, because originally they had the iLive, which wasn't that well regarded. Some people loved it, but it wasn't, in my view, that a great console. It's okay console, and that sort of tainted things a little bit. And so it took some convincing and quite a bit of time. And I've got a guy who works as part of my team, Mike Bangs, affectionately known as Bangs, who was early on iLive and then DLive and became sort of an evangelist and was totally committed to the cause. And we owe him, particularly in the States, a great amount of thanks for his efforts in establishing DLive when it was not an easy sell. And that sort of again just started the snowball that we see now.
Basically, somebody in England did very good marketing, because I had a lot of English early kid engineers, opening stuff there coming over, and it was always, we need this and that, and they're always like, somebody did a really good job of marketing, I guess guerrilla marketing, whatever.
Yeah, I think probably outreach and getting them on it, and that's always a difficulty for any console manufacturer, particularly up and coming and bringing out a new product, is getting people used to it and using it. And sometimes that's getting it into a few some key clubs where they're forced to use it. Sometimes it's glad handing and making deals and short-term loans and stuff like that.
With short-term loans, I really think too is hanging out with them, visiting them, and just making them feel I think a lot of people had gone to the factory too and went through it.
Yeah. For those who are not familiar with Allen Heath, we are UK based. Console manufacturing is offshore, pretty much exclusively in China, but there is a large presence on the eastern portion of Cornwall, which is south of London. It's about six hours south. It's not a great easy place to get to, but it's beautiful. It's got a pretty active surf scene, and it's just stunning down there. And we're close to a town called Falmouth, which is a university town. But that is sort of the hub of Allen Heath, where all the R&D happens. We also have a couple of sophisticated circuit board manufacturing machines, so we do some of the prototyping for other companies within the group. But yeah, and I think one thing hopefully everyone notices is that our product managers do have a face. They are out there doing videos, these sort of things like Jan's doing here, where you have people just call in after we do a launch. We'll do an open call, and people can just call in and talk directly with the guy who specified the console and actually do the circuits, but he specified it and managed the process. So we've got two or three of those guys. Originally, Keith Johnson looks after SQQ, CQ, and a few other things. Guy from the U.S. who was one of our regional sales managers, Christopher Melindy, just moved over there a year ago, and he's looking after DLive and Avantis, and I think our ME in-ear sort of mixing package. And before that, assisting him is a guy named Jack Kenyon, who again, you can sort of point at Jack and say, well, he's out there a lot of these festivals talking to people. So outreach, and there's a saying our marketing guy here in the US has, Jeff Hawley, be seen everywhere. We're very aggressive about our marketing, going to trade shows, going to small trade shows, being out and about, which again, is one of the ways this has happened.
One of the things that I see with Allen Heath more than any other, or you're either advertising more or whatever, but training sessions all over. I see that your Allen Heath is offering training sessions, hands-on training sessions, almost everywhere. How is that working?
I was just going to say, I went to one, and they had somebody teaching it who was an actual front of house, mixing professional, and
that's Bangs, yeah.
And it was really enjoyable because, you're not just getting it from somebody who's talking theory in a back office, but somebody who's actually on the road mixing. And it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
And that's one of the things I look after at at the U.S. level is that all the training initiatives fall under me. I don't, thankfully I've got great people who do most of the heavy lifting for it. But that that was one of the things that used to be a Yamaha thing. I mean, they had a dedicated department for doing that, and really that helped drive their success. And so we're quite committed to that. And Bangs, and I've got another guy, Jake Hartsfield, who's a front of house engineer for a band that, again, I'm a rock and roll and punk guy, so I never heard of them, but they're fairly reputable, called Wolfpack. And so Jake is a front of house guy for Wolfpack. Bangs, who did your class, Chris, is George Strait's monitor engineer.
Yeah, and the Wolfpack is like the that guitarist guy. Can't think of his name. They did an album with
Wolfpack is
with
actually
Dirty
really good
Loops.
band.
Yeah, Corey
Dirty
Wong.
Loops.
Yeah,
The Dirty
Corey
Loops
Wong,
guys
that's
are
it, yeah, it was-
scary.
yeah,
Corey
it was
Wong is
Corey.
amazing.
Yeah, well, I tell you that Corey Wong, when they did they did an album with Dirty Loops called Turbo, and that was, wow.
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Dirty Loops guys are just scary good.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are over the top over them. So those are the two guys I have working as part of my team doing these trainings, and who are more or less tour and live sound liaison people, and they're great.
Now, you mentioned George Strait. Now, wouldn't that put you tie in a little bit to Ken Porter there?
I would. Yep. Ken's sometimes Bangs is Ken's working for Bangs. Sometimes we're working for Ken. So, but yeah.
So
So-
a little
Yeah.
scaled down a little bit. What's the big difference, the SQ to the SQ Plus? What was the big change? Or is it just a couple
The
little things?
change.
I have
It's
two
a
SQ5s
combination of
here.
little Yeah, it's a combination of little things that make it up to a big thing. It's nothing, I'd say groundbreaking, but it's niceties. So the screen's much larger. We redesigned the GUI so it's lays out a little bit cleaner and more modern looking. We've included one of the decisions Allen Heath has made is to often offer the plug-in stuff as pay to play things, to keep the ideas that we keep the costs down for people who don't need it. And if you do need it, you pay money for certain like compressor packs and that sort of stuff. The SQ Plus comes with all the toys built, in it, except for it also has the capability when we provide what we call the essentials package. One of the things that we've concentrated on over the past 2 years is the Rack Ultra Effects, REFX package, which is a very high-end reverb and delay and a few other harmonizers and pitch change, pitch correction stuff that we originally introduced in D-Live. But now that's gone all the way down to SQ. And so SQ has a basic capability with the option of buying more capability there. And those are, and it's got a little, it's been mucked around with a little bit in terms of ergonomics. It doesn't, it doesn't cost much more, and we're continuing to keep the original SQ in the range. So if you don't want any of that, save $1,000 and do the old SQ. So that's, in short, that's it. Same channel count, same bus count, all that
Cool.
sort of stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, the Plus looks really cool. And by the way, this is a George Strait
Branded.
resistable.
You're such a hoser.
This is it right here. I just got it. So talking about George Strait, I got the lid.
There you go. Making him happy and proud. I think he's also got, what's he got, Ken? He's got whiskey too, doesn't he?
Código is tequila.
Tequila. That's it.
Tequila.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I gotta go, guys. So thank you, Mr. Dorr, for being here.
No, thanks.
And,
Thanks for asking good questions and making me
Definitely gonna
on my
look into the
toes.
Avantis. I've wanted to, and you just motivated me to take a closer look and to
Okay,
spend some
cool.
time on
And
it.
if you get any questions, let me know. Or if you need, someone to spend some time with, like on FaceTime or video, we can walk you through one if you're
Yeah.
around.
Thank you so
Bruce, if you're
much.
bored, you just come to Nashville and you can hang out in my warehouse and put you.
I should. Everybody says go to Nashville. Okay, you
Everybody
Yeah,
guys.
and not only
join.
that, you'll get some great barbecue, man.
Yeah,
Great
oh
barbecue.
yeah. Oh yeah. See you
Have a
next
great
week,
week.
everybody. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Bruce.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye, bye. Anyway, well, that's great. All right, who's got something more to ask for Tom? Anybody? Chris?
Well, let's can we just dive into that rack uh thing with
Ultra
the
effects.
SQ Plus? Yeah, so
Yeah.
you don't have to have it, but it's an option. And
No, and we in the U.S., I don't think they do that internationally, but in the U.S. we provide what they call the essentials package, which gets you the verbs, but without as much control as the full package. And you really should hear them. I mean, I am jaded because I'm old and I've been around consoles and stuff a lot. When I originally heard those, I was like, "Holy cow, these things sound fantastic!" I think, Ken was at we had when we originally launched that, I think 2 years ago at
In Vegas.
InfoComm. He was
Yep.
part of the sort of special preview or special viewing, and I think he was suitably impressed too, weren't you, Ken?
Yeah, and I ordered right there. I ordered all of them for every console I had.
Yeah. It really is amazing. It's a ton of horsepower because again, to do as far as I'm aware, and from what I know, it takes a lot of horsepower to make verbs sound good, which is why it's hard to get good verbs and a lot of the great verbs and a lot of the plug-in stuff. You need a lot of processing, and so on this REFX package, we combine a combination of FPGA and ARM uh, processing to get the power we need to do it. It took us, I think what we quote, I think 4 man years. I think it's 2 people working 2 years on it to get it out. And it really is. You just, if you hit it with like a snare drum hit or something, and then just mute the input, and you can dial the decay time up to something like 60 seconds. You hit it and let it go, and it just goes and it's super smooth. You're not hearing these weird artifacting or oddities as it goes. It just this sort of steady reverberation feel, which is yeah, impressive.
if you go out to that rack and then come back into the console, is the console buffering to keep the time alignment on the bus?
Well, on the it's a rack only in parlance. It's in the console. There, depending on what you're doing, there is latency involved, particularly in things like pitch correction and stuff like that. There's quite a bit of latency in some of those, no more than you would do if you're using a plugin in an external host. And in the cases of reverbs, it doesn't matter that much. It's
Oh,
it's
right.
not
Yeah.
so
Okay.
much.
Yeah. Got
Yeah.
that. That makes sense.
So yeah, it's not something that's in general time critical. But yes, all these things, particularly the pitchy stuff, does introduce latency, but it's the same as you would have if you went into an Antares plugin on a wave surfer.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So
Now,
that's that.
we have someone in the room, Tom, who's a huge fan of yours. He was using your console, your Soundcraft console when you were at Soundcraft on his act. He loved it, Mr. Newman.
Newman. Newman. Yeah.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah.
Great to see
Hey,
you, Tom.
hey, Ken, how are you?
All right.
You look like you're in a hotel room somewhere.
I am in a hotel room in Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville, is that it? Yeah, Jacksonville.
Yeah, with Barry still?
Yeah, one more show on this tour and then back to Vegas next
Yeah, I thought
week.
you had a residence. You're coming back for the residency.
Right. Yep.
Man,
How's
you got
things
to
for
give
you?
this guy
You
credit. He's
still up?
touring his ass off right now. Touring his ass off. He's making up for lost
Literally.
time.
Literally. Yeah, his ass is gone. So are you still up in New England, Tom?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just live. For those who don't know, just live a little bit north of Boston on the New Hampshire seacoast. So about an hour out of
Nice.
Boston, near Portsmouth.
We
So
we did a private show up there in August last
Oh,
August
did you?
in
Yeah.
yeah, I forget, it was somebody's birthday or something.
Wow.
Yeah,
Someone with money.
somebody with a lot of money.
Must have had a lot
How's
of money to do a private show. Yeah.
Yeah, to go
how's
all
his
the way
health?
there. Yeah, yeah.
He
Sorry,
got over the
he's
cancer
coming
thing. Was
around, you know.
yeah,
Hey,
good.
Ken, how did Nashville go? I'm sorry I didn't get to see you.
Yeah, it went pretty good. That room, I don't remember it being that live, but that's a really live room. But it sounded good. I got compliments from people, so I guess it was okay.
Yeah, it's all over the place map with it. They're not doing much to it because now there's a big push. Let's build a new arena that's bigger.
Oh, is that right? Jim Riskin mentioned something about they like it nice and live for the sporting events.
Yeah,
Yeah, some
What room was it, Ken?
Bridgestone, I
The
would guess.
Bridgestone
Bridgestone
Arena,
Arena.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But Ken's PA in there. Ken's PA is exceptionally great.
Well, thank you. Well, you're carrying a PA too, right?
That's yours. That's your
Yeah.
PA. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, you mean you have a PA that's installed in there too?
We did the install.
Oh, wow, good for you. So that was, yeah, but your PA that we brought in sounded
Yeah.
particularly great. It sounds particularly great everywhere.
Everybody doing good with you?
Everybody's doing great. Yeah, it's real good.
Good
Yep.
deal.
Okay. So
That's it.
Tom, as the director of market,
So
sorry.
I came in on the
Yeah.
tail end of you talking about reverbs, Tom. Sounds
Yeah,
like, can you just give me the quick explanation of what that was? You've got
yeah,
added some nice reverb ability to the
we
Allen Heath
developed
consoles.
yeah, we developed a card that was a retrofit initially for the D-Live range that went in the mix engine that gave you a very high quality set of reverbs as well as harmonizers and pitch correction stuff, both natural pitch correction and sort of the affected sort of T-Pain, people like to call it, pitch correction, and a few other toys. Um, and I was sort of extolling, how amazed I was at how it sounded. I mean, again, it was better than any console reverb I've ever heard. It was like, wow, just
Well,
natural and big and you put, what we call it the tail end of us talking where you could sort of hit it with whatever you wanted, a vocal or a snare drum and dial it, the decay all the way up, and it just goes just naturally without artifacting or weird.
Yeah, I've learned recently that that's not as easy as it sounds to make a
No, it's
reverb sound
hard.
that way.
No, it's super.
Because I bought a plug-in that was claimed to be so great and so forth, and it does not have a long tail. And I'm
That's
like,
the
I need a
trouble.
long tail, you know.
I was just saying that the issue with plugins is that you can't, so far, I assume they'll figure it out at some point, you can't get the horsepower you need to really get that, to get that, I think.
well, part of the problem too is a lot of consoles that have reverbs and delays like that. You suck up so much DSP power you start taking stuff away from the console, and this has the power to run the plugins on the card.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good approach, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and when we've spun that down market now, so we've got the Avantis, which is the mid level, and the SQ, which is sort of the medium, sort of upper lower level, I guess. Has that available as an option on them, which is nice, and that's sort of
Now,
it
Tom,
was
Yeah,
all
really.
of that is built into the surface, correct?
it is, yeah,
You don't use external power supplies or anything like that.
or
Everything is all
servers,
the reverb, all the
yeah,
electronics, all the
and
effects built
again.
into the console, right?
That exactly, and that ends up being one of our mantras as well, in that we try to make it where you don't have to run a plug-in server if you don't want to. We've got a bunch of pretty cool compressors built in. We've got powerful uh, effects units. We've got multi-band compressor, dynamic EQs. So we've got a lot of the stuff in there. Yes, you can connect a Waves server to us. We got a Waves card. Yes, you can connect a Fourier or something like that. We got a Dante card, but you don't have to. And so it keeps particularly if you're, like I said, our core audience tends to be, and touring at least, younger engineers who often are traveling with fly packs and stuff like that. So it just cleans up their rig. And again, fully recalls within the console show structure. You don't have to send a MIDI command out to recall an external rack.
Oh, I was confused earlier when it said rack FX. I thought this was an
Yeah, that's yeah,
actual physical.
that's just
Sorry.
marketing
Yeah,
talk,
okay.
Sonny.
Okay, so it's actually just a module that it's just integrated
Yeah, in
into
the
the
case of the
console.
SQ, it's just part of the motherboard.
Okay.
In the Avantis, it is a sort of secondary module that fit internal. It's not like something that you just throw in there. It's either you have to take the console apart, and the D-Live you have to take them. In the old days, you'd have to take the mix engine apart. We offer them with it installed now. The D-Live, that's the only way it comes now.
Mhm.
So have you done
Now,
any feedback on it yet?
No, no, I knew you would ask me about that. No, not yet. Um, we've got so much other stuff going on. I think I see that Fourier's got it now, right?
yes.
Right. Yeah. Basically, they adapted their software, their plugin software to work on the Fourier. So, how about an auto mixer? Auto mixer an option?
Yeah, there's a Dugan style, auto mixer in all our products, even the smaller from the smallest to the largest.
So let me ask you a question that you may not be able to tell me the answer to. It might be private or
Yeah.
knowledge. But I remember in the old days working with PM 2000s and Soundcraft 800s in that era, whatever that was, the early 80s. And I remember hearing the sales numbers were in the hundreds of units of those consoles were sold. Can you tell us about how many of each series of the Allen and Heath consoles have been sold?
No, I can't. A lot. There's a lot
Like
out there.
more than hundreds, I'm guessing then?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
Okay, great.
uh,
But our
when I
industry has expanded since then too. I mean, back in
Of
yeah.
course.
when they put out
I
that
need to quote Carl Sagan right here when I say millions and millions and millions. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
the industry was a lot different then.
Yeah. Ken's right. I
Right.
mean, the house of worship, you know, wasn't buying production like they do now. I mean, like I've said, and I think it's probably a true statement, the industry would collapse without, house of worship, the purchases they make. The production industry isn't large enough to support what we've got going. Um, but, you know, I will say when I was interviewing with Allen and Heath, I was told a number and I thought, they must have meant, must mean global. No, the number I was told was just for the U.S. and it was more than I could have ever imagined. I didn't realize how big the company had
How
But
become.
about
most
that? Well, how
but
about
Yeah.
most
this? You used to be at
manufacturers,
Soundcraft. Do you happen to know any of the sales figures for the VI series of Soundcraft?
I did. I've got them on my computer. I can't rattle them off the
But
top of my
but
head.
do you think do you think it was tens of thousands or just thousands?
No,
Do you
thousand,
think?
thousand probably.
Okay. Okay, interesting to know. Just curious. Thanks.
Yeah, thousand
Mm.
over X number of years. I think. Yeah, I'd have to. Good question. I have to add it up. 1,000 feels
To
about
quote
right.
Dr. Evil. Okay.
um, but when you talk about numbers just in US and stuff there, isn't the US numbers usually anywhere about 50 to 60% of a company's worldwide numbers?
Not in my view. Not if it's healthy. Someone like I'm going to use JB as an example, but I know that's not true for them either. If it's a U.S. manufacturer, the domestic market probably, particularly if they're a youngish or newer manufacturer, domestic market could be that high. Finger in the air for me, U.S. 25 to 30% of the global market, I think is a healthy number. Yeah, and again, without giving
Yeah, but
too much
I,
detail, we're pretty successful with Allen Heath, as a distributor, but yeah, that's too high. And if that is the number, then they're not
well, it
doing
depends on the
as well as they
market
should
segment
be
too.
doing in
Yeah.
Asia or Europe. or South or Latin America.
Mhm.
And
Well,
typically,
speaking
where
along,
are Allen and Heath products constructed, or is there
Yeah,
such a thing?
you missed a little bit of that. Everything is designed in the UK, south of London, in Cornwall. There's as I was talking about earlier, there's an impressive number, probably the largest console R&D team around down there. Everything is contract manufactured out of China, as most things, except probably for Digico being an exception. Yeah, so everything's made out of China.
okay,
So
along the lines of this, and this is one thing that you may not be able to answer as well, but AI is everywhere. AI is
Yep.
everywhere. And one of the things, being with a manufacturer, how is the corporate policy on AI, and is that being integrated now into your new lines? Or is that something you can't talk about?
I probably couldn't talk about if I knew. I don't know. It's something that we're interested in. I mean, again, as we all know, because you've had them on the show, and there's sort of if you will, probably the sort of the best example of a well implemented sort of AI thing is the de-feedback thing. Uh, there's certainly there's more of that somewhere in the down the road. How much it does and how it does it, I think I don't know, but it's nothing that I'd
Let
say
me rephrase the
actively.
question. Let me
Okay.
rephrase the
Okay.
question. I have an idea how you can. So you're out there, a lot of people are coming up to you, you're talking, you're going to trade shows, you're going to training.
Yeah.
What questions do people come up to you regarding the AI aspect? Does
It,
anybody
it,
give you ideas, or do they question you
I think
about what? How does it come out?
we've had some entrepreneurs come up to us. I think I had one at NAB. I can't remember what it did, but that was an AI. There's certainly entrepreneurs out there pitching their thing, much like the D feedback guys
Yeah, Devin.
are. Okay, yep. And there's casual interest and curiosity, I think, both from our dealer-based sales channel about what could be done, and some concern probably from engineers about how it's going to play out. But we really, I'm sure maybe at a group level, at a higher level, there is more work being done, but we're not too far down the road with that. But it's certainly something we've all got to, take into consideration. But yeah, it's too early. But you
Okay.
can sort of see some basic things that us and Yamaha and others have done where it's not really AI, but it's not it's kind of in that direction where, it will auto set mic levels and auto set certain things. And you're going to start seeing more of that as time goes by. How fast that happens, who knows? I don't see it, replacing a mixer, but it could do something to where analyzes EQ for something it's hearing and say, okay, that's a kick drum, and here's what I think the EQ should be. But who knows? Yeah,
Well, it's not really AI, but a Dugan basically is distinguishes who's talking and who's not talking, and will
yeah,
mute
it's again,
mics.
yeah. So, we're going to see more of that sort of early sort of, I'd say maybe more logic or, level sort of things, that becoming more AI. But yeah, it's probably a pay grade above me. And it's, people are curious, but no one's really, um, other than the D feedback crew, have come up with something that you say, oh yeah, that's great, that's needed, that works. Um, but but definitely there's going to be more of it. Just not sure when.
Yeah. Good, Mike. Go ahead.
So what about the surround sound stuff? Like hollow plot, sphere,
Yeah.
all that.
That comes up to a certain extent, particularly at trade shows. We've got a couple of consultants, one consultant in particular on the West Coast, who's interested, very interested in that because they are putting in one at a house of worship out there. Currently, we have not addressed that yet. On the list, so much other stuff going on that it's not top of the list by any means, but it is something that we're looking at my personal view is that it's hard, to really do it really right. You sort of have to do a dedicated GUI for each system, I think. But what probably will happen is using some sort of common control set, we'll try to do a generic one or one that doesn't require as much heavy lifting on our part. But there is interest, more for fixed install and house of worship, from what I've seen. But we haven't gone down that path, and I don't think we're in a position to, go down it anytime real quickly. But we are interested and are paying attention.
So for right now, Mike, you still have to use the LCR, okay? That's it.
Or the external controller, for all these systems have their own dedicated GUI that lives on a laptop or.
Now, and along the lines of what I was asking earlier, so you're out there, a lot of people are coming up to you, you're doing training. What would you say is the number one question that people ask you?
Who?
You.
Yeah. I don't know. This is the absolute, yeah,
How much does
absolute
it
honest
cost?
answer. It's all over the place. Yeah, I don't know if I got like one that everyone asks.
So here's a silly question.
Sure.
I know Allen and Heath as a mixer slash console manufacturer. Does Allen and Heath make other things like microphones or speakers or anything else
No,
for live
the only
sound?
other thing we do is, uh, there is a, there is a, in-ear monitoring system called ME1 or ME500 that can be used either directly with our consoles, but you can also use a hub that can speak Dante and other things and translate. So we've got, Broadway's using decent number of them in orchestra pits. So that's something. Obviously, for us, that's sort of a secondary market, but predominantly ends up being used in houses of worship usually with our consoles, but sometimes with Digicos and others. So that's one, and then we've also got a uh, digital matrixing system processor called AHM that comes in three flavors: 16, 32, and 64. Um, that has gotten quite a bit of traction, partly because it's using the same FPGA 96K engine as our consoles. So it's very powerful. It sounds good, and it's pretty simple to set up. It's not intended to be like a huge thing like SoundWeb would be for BSS or QSIS. But for hospitality, school districts, even entertainment venues, for routing and, sometimes console switching, um, it's a growing market and one that the company's very interested in continuing to develop. So it's
What
really
what's
AHM.
that
Yep.
what's that running?
Oh, it runs 2 to 5,000 off the top of my head, 16 to 30 to 64, maybe.
About the same as everybody else's. Okay.
Yeah, but it's
No.
again powerful, simple to use, and yeah, and again we're seeing sort of pretty amazing growth in that market. I've got a team again that sort of reports to me, kind of, sort of, at least on paper they do. They're pretty self-sufficient. A young lady named Samantha Potter has been sort of a champion of it. She's very young, very bright. She's been driving that, and we've just last year and a half or two, we've hired another person named Kevin McPhee, and those two sort of look after that part of the market. And it's growing rapidly for us, and there's interest at both sort of a higher and Allen Heath level for that to do more.
And you do stage boxes as well, and you
Yeah,
have some
all
headless
this.
mixes as well.
Yeah, the stage boxes, as part of our Everything IO ecosystem, and that generally is a plug and play proprietary connection to most of any of our current range of consoles. Um, And we also make some Dante boxes that can be plugged in to anybody's network. We still have to use a sort of secondary app for head amp control. But yeah, we have a wide range of things in this everything IO, and we're working on more for that.
So, Tom, I just want to let you know that I've used the ME500 system on the mini mixers for the in-ear monitors, and I love them because they interface directly with the console, as opposed to the Aviom, which is a real interface, an XL
Right.
quarter-inch interface. So between yours and the Behringers, which are really the only two that I know of that are proprietary that work directly with the mixers, it's a lifesaver. I also work with an artist called Charo, old school entertainer from Vegas.
Oh, sure.
And that's who we use that system with. And I used to
Oh, interesting.
carry 3 analog mixers and a hell of a lot of cross patching for the band. And then we discovered these mini mixers that has completely changed our lives, and it works really well.
Yeah, and that's been out for a while, and we're looking at trying to improve it down the road. And but yeah, it's been super successful. Again, a lot of house of worship. I can't think of the sound designer's name. It's the guy who did Back to the Future. He's a fan of them, so he's got ME1s and all of his
Gareth
more.
Owen.
Thank you. Yes, Gareth Owen. Fourier, one of the partners in Fourier as well. So Gareth uses them. And yeah, they've been great. And again, part of the reason, for our growth is having some of these sort of proprietary stuff that you don't have to worry about in terms of creating daisy chains, both in terms of stage boxes, personal mixers, all that. We've got a pretty flexible, um, you know, ecosystem that has paid off over the years. And I was gonna ask you, was Chara the one doing she used to do like the residency across from the convention center in Vegas? Was that her or was that someone else?
She did a couple of residencies.
Wasn't that Debbie Reynolds?
No, she had the hotel down the convention center drive.
Right. Charo did a residence at the Planet Hollywood. She did a residence at the Riviera, and she did one at Sahara.
Okay, no.
Didn't she do a residency
Curios or
on Fremont Street too, David?
No,
did that room ever open?
That never happened. No, the place wasn't good enough for her, so we didn't go. But she's still working, and she puts on a great show. So I'm still looking for those mini mixers.
And David, we're recommending David for the Guinness World Book of Records, for being, a sound engineer extraordinaire. But David will talk about that in another time.
Well, Jan is being kind. We were going to put me in Guinness Book of Records, which we could do as the world's oldest working sound man, because I hit the big 80. So I don't think there's guys older than me still doing what we're doing. And I'm on a rock and roll tour with a tour bus. It's like I'm not sitting there taking it easy. I'm working. Well, I don't work that hard, but I'm still in the bus.
Yeah, Stan Miller went for a while too. He didn't go into his. Was he still out about?
Stan's gone though.
So, yeah, no.
Yeah,
but he went to what? He's in his mid-70s, right, or late 70s?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Neil's been not working for a few years now, so I don't know if Stan made it to 80 as a work.
But he got up there.
Right. But I'm claiming that Guinness Book.
Yeah.
He's claiming the mantle. There you go. He's claiming the mantle. So, Tom, tell me about the console that's right behind you.
That's the D-Live. That's an S5000 D-Live. It's one of several things here in the room. That's our flagship touring and install console. And again, what started essentially the success, the modern day success story for Allen and Heath. That's a surface only. So there is no mix, capability without having a separate mix rack, mix engine. We make a variety of them from basically no analog I/O up to like 64 in by 32 out. You can't see it, but it's underneath the desk and connects just like most of them do via a Cat 5, Cat 6 cable to the back of the console. But that's the star of the touring side of things.
Very cool. And now, so one last question that I have before I ask some ridiculous question. Um, you mentioned that you are the director of market development for Allen Heath USA, and then parentheses American Music and Sound. How
Yeah.
is that? How is the hierarchy of that?
Yeah,
If
the
that's the
official
right
legal,
question.
yeah, so American Music and Sound is the official legal entity of the the distributor that does Allen and Heath. We Allen Heathites just call us Allen Heath USA, which is, but the official legal entity is American Music and Sound. That was originally started by Lynn Martin back in the day. And Lynn, he should get a good bit of, he and Tim Schafer and many others should get a good bit of credit for the success we see now. They campaigned when things weren't that as easy as it is for us at the moment. Um, American Music and Sound is owned by yet another company called Jam Industries. So they're based out of Montreal, and again, very large company, distribute multiple types of musical instruments as well as Allen Heath. They own Ashley. They own a distributor called the Music People (TMP). It's this pretty big operation, and so I think again, early on, Lynn partnered with Jam, who provided the financial support to get
Mm.
his American
Well,
Music and
Lynn was
Sound.
quite smart about that because he was working for Guitar Center as
Yep.
the head of the pro division. Actually, I think he was the president of Guitar Center, and then
He
he
was
went
that, but he
on
was he
to
was through the
forming.
upper management for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he went on to form American Music and Sound, which has
He's
been
at
very
Harman. I mean,
successful.
I worked with Lynn at Harman back, and again when Harman owned both Allen and Heath and Soundcraft. Lynn was sort of running the that whole division of that included Allen and Heath out and DBX and all that sort of stuff out of Salt Lake City. And
Mhm.
he had a
And now
great
you
career.
distribute the distribution model. You no longer have any dealers. Everything goes through the Jam family, correct?
No. We American Music and Sound slash Allen Heath USA is the U.S. distributor for Allen Heath, and we manage the dealer network just like anyone else does. So we have independent rep firms throughout the country who call on dealers. So there are Allen Heath dealers, and there's some larger entities that sort of function as quote, the distributors in the country. But no, we use a dealer network. We're not direct by any means.
Very good.
So why not group one?
Well, that's a good question, and one that I will address. How sort of politically touchy question in a way. The a I think the biggest reason is that we're very successful as we are currently structured. And we have a lot of resources, both in terms of money, feet on the ground, infrastructure that, um,
So
Group One.
basically, somebody was wise enough to say it's not broken. Let's not fix it.
Exactly. And because yeah, our success, if we were sucking, then yeah, maybe somewhere again pay grade higher than they might be scratching their heads about, well, why don't we put it to Group One because it's in the it's part of the Autotonic group and so on and
Right,
so
and
forth.
that's
But
you made the connection I was silently making. So I had
yeah,
always wondered about that.
yeah,
Since
I mean, I think it's a logical question, but they've been doing this long before, and being successful for a long time. And I think it'd be very difficult for anyone else to do it as well as we do it, biased that I am. So that's why. Not don't want to mess with success. In short.
Mm-hmm. So are you a cat fan? Is that why you've got that cat? I mean, I see that
No,
tail going back and forth. It would drive me crazy if I was working on that console.
try listening to it tick if you think that it's just watching the motion. No, it's just sort of like retro mid-century sort of stuff, and that we had that probably in our apartment in Chicago at some point, and just ended up living up here in my office mix console room.
Well, it brings you good luck. That's what, here they have the hands going
I
up
know,
and down.
yeah, that's
I'm
right. Yeah.
sure the tail is just as lucky. So we're getting ready to say goodbye to the public. And if you've liked it so far, please give us a thumbs up. Follow us. You could join the newsletter. Just DM any one of us on social media, and we will get you an invitation to join the panel. We thank everybody who's participated today, especially Tom Durr. And before we go offline, is there anything you'd like to close with?
No, not really. I mean, I appreciate you having me on again. I'm, I've gone from being sort of the, key person at my old job to where I'm in a company with a lot of really talented, really smart people. So, yeah, it's a great place to be, and yeah, and I think people, I think are picking up on the momentum and the energy and the skill level of the people at different from sales to support to what's going on back in Cornwall. There's a lot of energy, there's a lot of positive things happening, and a lot of passion, and just hope people pick up on that. I think they do.
Well, I know that I have, and I know everybody in the room has as well. Is there any way that people can contact you directly, or should they just go through their normal channels?
No, I'm welcome to contact me. Yeah, always. I'll pick up emails or
Okay, let me
phone.
give you his home number, everybody. It's 888-555-5555.
Yeah, I mean, you
Feel
can
free
have
to
my,
call anytime, especially in the middle of the night.
yeah,
Okay.
but no, certainly email's fine. Tom at what is it? ah-usa.com, I believe. There's a longer one that's an American Music and Sound that I won't bother
If
people with.
anybody needs to reach him, contact me, and I will.
Yeah,
I will make sure that
Jan can
you're
find
able
me
to reach
anywhere
him.
where I am. He's got my
That's it.
phone number and email.
Yes, very, very good. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Remember, give us a thumbs up, click the like, share the show, tag it. And we're going to go off the air. So, oh, look, Kurt Hare's in the room, ladies and gentlemen. Talking about analog consoles. There we go.
Big Allen and Heath owner there, Kurt
Yeah,
is.
actually, yeah, absolutely. Besides the gambles, he's got D-Live, I believe.
I just got two of the SQ pluses too, SQ6s.
Yeah, good man.
There you go.
Our sort of guy.
Supporting our guest, a guest in honor. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Again, remember, we're going to stay in the room, and if you want to join us when we're schmoozing before, you could also join us, because we don't do everything that we could say. A lot of confidential stuff goes on before and after. All right, there you go. Remember, you make it happen. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Oh, we've got, just an FYI, we've got the next guest scheduled is Mark Medding from Coda Speakers. And he's going to talk about his Spaceline speakers, which are pretty cool. The flat panel that can be that are modular. And we're working on getting other guests in the room as well. So with that in mind, remember, you make it happen. We'll see you next Wednesday, 4:45 Pacific time. And till then, make it happen. Stay safe, stay healthy. And we are now